welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. Today we are reviewing 5 teams from the members of the FantasyTakeTV Discord. Those that signed up for the preseason package were of course entitled to have their team reviewed at some point in the preseason, whether it was by George, Eno, myself, either in a video or just through DMs. But I've got 5 that I'm going to review today. Unlucky for those that drew me, a bit of a short straw, but we should have a bit of fun anyway. So I haven't looked at these teams, but I'm guessing at this point in the preseason they're going to start converging, similar to mine, which in some ways will make it easier for me because I'm going to like a lot of what I see. I have a feeling, but at the same time, it's then going to make it quite hard for me to give areas of improvement, especially if there's a bit of confirmation bias in my own team. But we'll try and put some notes on each of these as well. All right, let's jump into it. First, we've got Swanee 83. All right. As always with these, what I tend to do first is check the structure. How many premiums are we running? How many mid prices? Looking at that type of thing. So 2 premiums down back, 3 in the middle, 2 in the rucks, and 4 on the forward lines. I'm going to be counting Goulden as a primo. I think that's what you're picking him as, even though it's kind of like blurred a little bit as whether he's a mid price or a premium. But this is like 11 premium structure. I mean, and green's the same boat. I mean, that's other years that gets called mid price, but it's more like a premium selection. So yeah, 11, which I think is going to be the standard. Most people are going to be going between 11 or 12 premiums, and I don't mind either. It just depends on, I think, how much you like the mid prices and some of the premiums as well. So 11 seems fine to me. And then the mid prices, we've got and Jones, we've got another 3 in the middle, and then Bruin and Flanders up front. So this is, I mean, that's what you'd expect. Gone 1 less primo, you got 7 mid prices going on. So very mid price heavy, but from the quick look, a lot of the selections I like. So just having a look at the forward line, that is, I think, player for player, what is my side at the moment. So I like that. And then defense is more or less the same as my side as well. I think the things actually missing from both of these is probably a little bit of bench depth. So I've got McKenna in my defense and McLean in the forward line at the moment. Sacrifice some of that cash to get it on field, which could definitely be a big advantage early. You just got to make sure that the rookies that you've got instead are going to hold up, which I think mostly looks fine. The ones that I'd be most worried about is what happens if Sincotta doesn't get named. You've got the money to go to Cowan though, which is fine. And then Chesser is the other one that's a little bit problematic because even if he does get games early, which he probably will, I think he's a pretty big chance for sub risk as they ease him back in. So is there anyone you can get to with that 31k? What's Bytel priced at? That's probably the only one I can think of. I have a feeling you're just short. And then there's really no one in the forward. I guess like you could move Davey into Chess's spot and get someone like Chandler if he gets named around 1, or maybe Sturt if you're pretty sure he's going to play with Frederick and Walters back. But yeah, that's probably the only flaw I kind of see in the bench at the moment. Of course, there's a little change with teams being named and this, that, and the other. But yeah, just a little bit of bench depth is probably the concern. And then in terms of the other picks, the only player that I see that I really am not a massive fan of is probably Will Setterfield, which I know others are on, and I definitely wouldn't talk people out of picking him if they like him. I think I just prefer Hopper for 45k less, 40k less, whatever it is, and that probably actually solves your rookie cash problem. So if you do need to pay up money for those rooks, it'd probably be Setterfield to Warple for me, and then you could get someone like a Chesser or a Sincotta probably to someone like a McLean, and that would solve it, or a McKenna if that's what you needed, but you'd only be able to get one of those. So yeah, I guess like I've talked about Setterfield a little bit. Why I'm not massively onto him is I'm just not really sure what's going to happen when Essendon's midfield is full strength, although that may not happen. Parrish may not come good, Caldwell may not come good, and if that's the case and Setterfield's moving up into kind of like 3rd or like clear 4th in the midfield rotations, he could be getting over 50% and become a really good pick. But I'm just a little bit worried that if those guys are back and batting at 100%, then Setterfield's getting more like 40% CBAs. And instead of using him at centre stoppages where Essendon's historically been pretty good, they're using him just at those around the ground, which is not a bad role. But at 40k more expensive than Warple, for example, he's got to be significantly better too. And I'm just not sure if that's going to be the case. But as it stands, I like this team. I don't think there's anything wrong. As you'd know from my videos as well, I'm also not on Laird. I prefer some of the value guys, but I don't think there's anything wrong with starting Laird. If you like him, I know a lot of people do and don't want to bet against him. So great team, Swanee. It's like, there's very minimal problems with this. And I think it's, at least for me, it's pretty obvious how you could free up cash to fix them if you had to in a pinch come this week. So I'd say you're in a very good spot for round one. All right, Hados, 10-10. Okay. So let's have a look at the structure. First of all, we've got 2 premiums down back. We've got 4 in the midfield, 2 in the rucks, and then... Oh, that's the only other thing, sorry, that Swanee had that's a little bit different is English. And I wouldn't talk someone out of an English pick over Darcy, who I'm on, or Wits as well. Like, I think any of those are good. He's probably got the most upside of any of them. The double soft tissue injuries during the preseason make me pretty worried that he's not going to be able to last out the rest of the year. But he could go gangbusters early, make a whole bunch of money, and then it doesn't really matter if he gets injured because you can sideways down to the others. So if you like him, go for him. All right. So we were 2, 4, 2, and then another 4. So this is a 12 premium structure. So one more premium, and that should mean that we're going to see some trade-offs made with either mid-prices or rookies. So we'll jump into that at the moment. And this really highlights the difference between what structure do you like more. Myself, I know I put out a 12 premium structure video a few days ago, but I'm still going back and forth actually between whether I'm being aggressive enough and should go down to 11 premiums with the extra mid-pricer versus stick strong with the 12 premiums, which is a little bit more conservative. Okay, and yeah, to make 12 work, you've had to move away from Laird or Oliver, which makes sense. But then you've got 12, I think, really strong premiums, including the Josh Kelly pick, which I like. Mid prices, so you've got 2, 1 in the mids, and then 1 up front, which is 4, which is, that's probably fine. Okay, and then where does this get interesting? So McKenna, that's still got good depth. Yep, defense looks good. I mean, defense is very similar to mine. Good, strong defense. Forward line. Oh, okay, it's Radaglia at F6. Or like F3 with the loop. It could kind of be either. Sorry, R3 with the loop. And then you could play McLean on field. You've got Davey in your midfield still, which is good. Baker. Phillips on field. Okay. All right. So where you kind of sacrificed a little bit is with your midfield. There's no Callahan in here, obviously. I think the version of this team that I had was kind of like Callahan in the midfield and then Flanders in the forward line rather than Bruin. And that meant that Phillips is still on my bench rather than on the field. I don't necessarily see Phillips as a bad on-field option. I know a lot of people got scared off him on the weekend, but the reality is they played the Dogs, who smashed them, but also like a very greedy midfield side, and Phillips still scored okay, not great, but okay, and had 60% CBAs, which should translate to good scoring throughout the year. To be honest, I don't mind having him on field, but I know others are pretty uncertain, and I guess the worry would be that if he fails for whatever reason, like the depth that you have behind it isn't great. Like you don't really want to play any of Baker, Davies, and Cotter on field, I don't think. You could move McLean up and play him there instead, but that means you're fielding Radaglia each week, which probably may not be ideal either. So I think the trade-off with this team is pretty clearly that the bench depth is also quite light in this situation across like that mid-forward spot. And if someone was to, be poor for a week in terms of rookies and or like be out and then you needed to field cover, you get pretty thin pretty quickly. But in terms of on-field scoring potential, I think this looks very, very strong early on. And if you were able to weather any of those rookie problems, then you'd be fine. Now, if Sincotta wasn't named and Cowan was, how could you adjust? I guess Constable goes into your midfield, Cowan goes onto your bench, and you probably have to field McKenna, which some people may not be comfortable with. I think it's probably okay. He's going to get better as the year goes on. Maybe you leak some points early. But yeah, you could do that, I think. Or you could play... Yeah, I think, that's what you have to do. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the rest of this seems fine. I guess the only thing to do is, like, what if Radaglia doesn't get named? Or isn't a good pick? Like, how do you fix that? I'd really love to see Flanders instead in that position, but I just don't see how you'd do it with this team without having to sacrifice someone like McKenna. But I mean, yeah, otherwise, I think for a 12 premium structure, this is very nice. And I don't mind Phillips on the field as much as others do. I guess between McLean and Radaglia, you do cover all those 3 lines, and McKenna on the bench is fine. So yeah, I think you've done well, Hados. I think there's nothing wrong with this side. There's no picks here that I'm really against, which may be a bad thing. I might have a bad read on a lot of these things. Yeah, the only thing you need to kind of decide for yourself, I would say, is does this feel too conservative? Are you getting worried not having a Warple, a Callahan, a Flanders, these types, and do you want to adjust down one less primo to make those happen? All right, Spen. All right, I think George is going up from Swanee. All right, so Spen. Bond's Disciples, great team name. So off to a strong start already. All right, we've got a 2-3-2-4 structure here. So 11 premiums once again. More similar to the first side. Defense, I can tick this off. It's like my defense, love it. Forward line, tick like my forward line, very, very, very much like this. Oh, worried there's not much variation here, but those are both fine. And then the midfield I swear, is this a copy and paste of the first team? Hold on. Oh, I missed Bombers. Okay, sorry, Bombers. And my own brethren too. What do we got that's different here? We got McKenna on the bench here. Setterfield in the midfield versus Warple. Oh, okay. So this is almost exactly what I was talking about. If you go down Setterfield to Warple, this is then how it frees up your team. So Spen, like, sorry, but if you like listen to the Swanee team review, then it almost works up like exactly 1-for-1. With my thoughts on this team, with like the Setterfield trade-off, and then how it plays out with the rest of the side, with you then having a more secure bench than what I saw with Swanee here. Yeah, I think like all the other picks. Oh, have you got you've got Darcy over English, which then freed up another 20k as well. So it's still not enough to get to McLean, which is just the shame. If you could somehow still get like Chesser to McLean, because Chesser is the weak point in this structure set up at the moment. But I guess you could move Chesser out, put Sincotta down, and then get Wilmot in there instead. You still have a little bit of money in the kitty. Yeah, the rest of this looks fine. I have no problems with this side whatsoever. Very much like Swanee's side, in the sense that I tick this off. This looks good. Looks ready for round one. All right, Bombers 56. We got the vertical. We got the old iPhone screenshot. I'm guessing iPhone. Good feel on that. Good feel. All right, let's have a look at the team. So down defense, we've got just the one premium defender. In the midfield, we're paying up. We've got 5 primo mids, 2 rucks, and 4 forwards. So what's that? 1, 5, 2, 4. So still ending up at 12 premiums. We're just moving one from defense into the midfield, which at least we've got something different to talk about. That's a little bit of fun for sure. And we got some rookies that I don't normally see in Sturt and Fahey that we can talk about. That's cool. All right. So, all right, let's talk about this defense first of all. So the problem with cutting one premium defender is we then have to field both McKenna and Constable every week. And the bench depth, I don't really love in terms of Wilmot and Cal. Not that they're not fine picks for the bench, but the reality is I'm not sure what Constable's scoring is going to look like post about week 2. Once Weller and Power back, is he still getting kick-ins? Is he still being used out of defense as much? The answer might be yes. He might still be scoring fine, but I'm a little bit worried it drops off a fair bit, and then you may actually, him be scoring similar to like a Wilmot or a Karen or something like that, and you don't really want him on your field. And that's in a world where you're already stuck with McKenna. So I'm a little bit worried about having these two at D5 and D6, just because if they don't score particularly well, which is definitely in the range of outcomes, then the bench that's sitting behind them probably also isn't either, and you could start leaking points at this position. It's why I've generally preferred another player at the D2 position, even if it's Ridley, Crozier, something like that, just so you're only fielding one of McKenna or Constable each week. It may not be a problem in the season come proper. But that is a weakness that I see off the bat. And once we move into the midfield, we'll have a look to see if you're going to make up the points elsewhere, which I think you would if you got 5. But yeah, I think the test of this team is going to be, are you going to leak points in those rookie spots? All right, in the midfield itself, you've got both Oliver and Laird, Bont, Kelly, Green. So we've got 5 beautiful looking premiums here. The call out will be that going into both Laird and Oliver, you've obviously paid up a fair bit. I mean, it's 200k kind of combined across those two versus picking up a couple of 600k guys. And that does mean that you are going to have some weaker positions. And I think it's going to be those rookie spots. I think the likelihood that both Oliver and Laird are worth the price that you pay them is like less than 5%. I think 1 in 20 outcomes on the simulation is those two being started as working out for owners. So I'm happy to bet against it personally. If you're a big believer in both, keep them. That's fine. I can't even tell you which one of them is more likely to succeed. I probably lean Laird at the moment, but I'm not confident on that either. It's like a bit of a coin flip. Oliver has never done anything to suggest that he won't continue to be awesome for forever. The hand's really the only concern. And then Laird's been amazing ever since he's been a full-time mid, so it's hard to knock either of them. All right, defensive bench here. So Fahey, I don't think gets a game for GWS, and even if he does, I don't know if it's like for how long. So I just think you probably need different players, like a different rookie in this spot. And then Chesser, I've already spoken about, but yeah, I also am a little bit worried or a little bit sus on his job security. I think if Chesser was your worst rookie, you can probably get away with it, but I'm not sure you can get away with all of Fahey, Chesser, and Sturt. Fahey and Sturt's job security is really, really low. So let's just quickly finish off. All right, so Mackenzie, Ashcroft, like these are good spots. Your midfield's going to score 1 million points every week. Darcy Marshall, we tick off the rucks. And then your first 5 forwards here are all fine. But yeah, where it starts to fall apart a little bit is Sturt, who I'm not sure if he still has a role once Frederick and Walters come back. Now, if he does when they're all named round 1, if they're all named round 1, then happy days, you probably can start Sturt. But I'd be looking at maybe Chandler as another option. Even then, Chandler's a little bit of a risky pick if Fritsch isn't named, whose spot he's probably primarily taking at the moment. But if Fritsch and Chandler are named together, then that would be okay, possibly. So yeah, I think the thing that we're missing from this screenshot is cash in the bank, because that's what's probably missing here. Like we don't have Phillips instead of. I mean, I'm guessing if you had the money, you'd probably put in Phillips instead of Fahey, and you probably need that. And then in this forward line, this is a very weak spot as well. So to make the money, I'm probably moving one of Laird or Oliver down. I'd be to someone like McRae or you've already got Kelly, McRae or Steele for me. I think whoever. I mean, McRae frees up slightly less cash, but it just depends on how much you need and how much you like them as options. But then, yeah, that lets you get someone like Fahey up to Phillips. And I'm not really sure how you're going to solve that forward line. I guess if you could get like Sturt to Flanders, it's probably more of a priority than getting Fahey to Phillips. But that's what I'd be looking at with this team. So most of the picks really good. And it's an interesting structure going the 1 in defense for the 5 in the midfield, which is going to be very strong point scoring. But I think that the lack of value in Laird and Oliver has meant that you've had to sacrifice your D6 and F6 spots, which will then potentially offset or even hurt more than the points you gain from Laird and Oliver. So that's probably what you need to weigh up from here. All right, and then final team for us to look at is SuperCoach God YouTube, and he is the SuperCoach God on YouTube. If you're looking, I think he's got a small channel just started. So if you are looking for some alternative content, maybe not a big content creator, someone that you want to support up and coming, go have a search look at his work and see if you want to jump on board for the season proper. All right. So this is another team where just the 1 premium defender, but I can see he's picked up Crozier, which is what I was kind of mentioning, and that means you can field just one of Constable and McKenna each week. And then in the midfield, we've got the 4 premium, so 1, 4, 2, 4. So this is an 11 premium team. So it should be pretty heavy on the mid prices, which makes sense. He's got Crozier, where the 12 premium one couldn't afford up for that. In the midfield, he's then got Warpool as well. And the forward line is Bruno and Flanders. So forward line is pretty much exactly my forward line at the moment. Tick, love it. And you've got McLean, Davey swapping. The defense is pretty much mine, except I've got McKenna, and then the midfield's looking good as well. I really don't see anything wrong with this team. If you don't like McKenna, then this setup is basically perfect. Pretty hard to fault, really. I don't know what else is there to say. This is a good-looking team. No McKenna is the most struggle I can do. And the reality is if like Crozier's not good, you can always go down to him. It then struggles the same problem that you've got Constable and McKenna on field each week. and that's the weakest part. If you really wanted to desperately fix that, it's obviously Laird out is where I'm going to be pointing to, or it could even be a McRae down to a Kelly. And then if you go to McRae down to Kelly, you can still get someone like a Cowan up to McKenna. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, this team is a beauty. SuperCoach Guide YouTube. There you go. Hopefully you've got a video up that explains your logic to get there and why you like these picks. Yeah, so unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, those that have jumped on the preseason package all have very good looking teams. People may be going, "Oh, they all look the same, all a little bit boring," but the reality is there's so much good information out there that it's somewhat expected that you get some convergence, especially in communities, in terms of core picks that people like, and then they kind of modify around the edges and the fringe. But the beauty is we've got 36 trades this year, which means we've got decision points every single week. With the boosts as well, we differentiate our teams throughout the year. And there's lots of different paths to win from here on out. So starting teams is just one part of how we make a difference and what makes our teams unique throughout the year. And I would say the other thing is, even though there's lots of similar picks, none of the teams are the same. They all have differences. And that's why I always say that the team itself is the point of difference, not individual players. But yeah, I like all of these sides. I think everyone here has submitted a great job, and it's just really the key things that I would say that you should be reflecting on is, do you want the 11 or 12 premium structure? What do you like more? If the rookies aren't named, how do you adjust the side? How do you free up money to make sure that you get the good rookies so you're able to set yourself up for not only those on-point scoring opportunities, but the cash and the upgrades throughout the year? And I mean, those are probably the two main points across all these teams. I don't like, most of them haven't sacrificed too much. There might be just a fringe pick here or there, but yeah, it's structure and it's how you adjust for rookies. And that's really the words of wisdom. Great work, everyone. If you do have any questions about these teams or of those whose teams I'm reviewing, you can hit me up, of course, in the Discord as well, in the members channel. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have, especially if there's specific things that you're tossing up that I didn't cover in this. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.